Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a really interesting scenario that's sort of brewing around the Kansas City Chiefs.
Oh, yeah. What's the latest buzz?
Well, there's this prediction from Anthony Palacios over at lastwordonsports.com. He's put forward the idea that the Chiefs should, maybe think about signing veteran wide receiver Tyler Lockett.
Lockett? Okay. He's been around a while. Still productive, but maybe not peak Lockett anymore.
Right. And to counter that, we've got an article from Kansas City Chiefs on SI. Dominic Minchella wrote it, dated just yesterday, April 11th, 2025. And he makes a pretty strong case against signing Lockett.
Ah, okay. So conflicting viewpoints always makes for a good discussion.
Exactly. So our mission today really is to dig into why Palacios thinks this is a good move, look at Minchella's arguments against it, and just try to get a clearer picture of, where the Chiefs actually stand with their receivers.
Sounds like a plan. It definitely touches on that classic NFL dilemma, doesn't it? Proven veteran versus betting on your younger guys.
It really does. So let's start with Palacios. What's his core argument for bringing Lockett in? The SI piece touches on it.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the rationale?
Well, according to Minchella's summary of Palacios, the thinking is basically that the Chiefs might need someone else to step up in the passing game.
Step up, even after last season's run. Interesting.
Yeah, Palacios apparently mentioned that Mahomes, despite everything, didn't play up to standards, which, okay, that's a high bar for Mahomes.
A very high bar. So the idea is Lockett could provide a spark.
Kind of. He suggests Mahomes could bring a spark out of Lockett,
Yeah.
maybe on just a one-year deal. So it's framed as a potential short-term injection of veteran talent.
Okay. So Palacios acknowledges Lockett might be, slowing down a bit, not a long-term fix.
Yeah, the article implies Palacios sees him as potentially valuable, even with those caveats. It's about adding another weapon, potentially.
Right. Assuming the current weapons maybe aren't enough or need supplementing, which brings us to the counter arguments. What does Minchella say against this?
Okay, so Minchella's piece really paints a much rosier picture of the Chiefs' offense as it stands. First off, obviously, he mentions Patrick Mahomes. Having one of the best quarterbacks helps.
Understatement of the year, right?
Oh, yeah. But then he quickly pivots to the receivers they already have. He highlights Rashee Rice, who they expect back in 2025.
Which is a big deal for them, getting him back.
Definitely. And Xavier Worthy, their first-round pick from last year going into season 2, there's a lot of emphasis on this young core developing.
That makes sense. You invest a first-rounder like Worthy, you expect him to take a step forward, you have Rice returning. So the argument against Lockett starts with the potential already in the building.
Exactly. And it's not just the young guys. Minchella also points out they brought back both Juju Smith-Schuster and Hollywood Brown.
Ah, right. Both on one-year deals, weren't they?
Yep. So they do have experienced players in that room already. It kind of weakens the argument that they desperately need a veteran presence like Lockett.
Okay, so they've got youth with potential, and they have existing veteran experience with Juju and Brown. So the question becomes, where exactly does Lockett fit into all that?
That's the next point the SI article makes. Minchella basically says Lockett doesn't seem to fit into the scheme for the Chiefs.
Doesn't fit the scheme. How so? Skill set mismatch or just roster redundancy?
It seems maybe a bit of both. He emphasizes Worthy as that young guy learning from the vets already there. It sounds like they feel the current structure, with Worthy being guided by Smith-Schuster and Brown, is the plan.
And, that structure isn't exactly brand new.
Good point.
It's pretty similar to the group that just won them a Super Bowl, right? The article points that out too, doesn't it?
It does. It heavily implies the organization believes in the current mix of players that got them there. Why mess too much with a winning formula?
Makes sense. What else? Any other reasons cited against Lockett?
Yeah, his age comes up. Lockett would be 33. That'd make him the oldest receiver on the team.
Okay, age is always a factor in the NFL, especially for receivers.
And Minchella also brings up DeAndre Hopkins. Remember, they let him walk in free agency.
Uh-huh.
The article suggests that letting Hopkins go might signal that the Chiefs are actually quite comfortable with the receivers they currently have.
Yeah.
Like, they had a chance at another established, older receiver and passed.
That's a really interesting point. Actions often speak louder than words, right? If they let Hopkins walk, why suddenly pursue Lockett now? It suggests a strategic direction.
Feels like it. And the final nail in the coffin, according to Minchella, is timing and focus.
Meaning
the Chiefs are probably much more focused on the upcoming 2025 NFL draft right now than they are on scouring the remaining free agent market for receivers.
Right. build through the draft, especially if you feel good about your current core and returning players. That tracks with how successful teams often operate.
So yeah, putting all those counter arguments together, you get this picture of a team that feels pretty solid about its receiver room. They like the young guys, they trust the returning vets, and they're probably looking towards the draft for any future additions.
Okay, so let's synthesize this a bit. We've got Palacios suggesting, hey, maybe a short-term boost from a savvy vet like Lockett, even if he's older, could help Mahomes.
Right. Potential spark.
But then you have the SI analysis saying, hold on, the offense is good, Mahomes is great. We have promising young guys like Worthy and Rice returning, plus experienced hands in Juju and Brown.
Yeah, and adding Lockett doesn't really fit the scheme. He's older, and we already let a similar profile player walk. Plus, our focus is likely the draft now.
Exactly. So the key takeaways seem to be this clash of perspectives on need. The SI piece strongly suggests the Chiefs don't feel a pressing need for another veteran receiver right now.
Confidence in the current mix seems high.
Yeah, and age and scheme fit are real concerns regarding Lockett specifically, and their likely focus on the draft points towards a longer-term strategy rather than a quick free agent fix.
So for everyone listening, this really gives you a glimpse into how teams weigh these decisions, doesn't it? It's not just about talent in a vacuum.
Not at all. It's about fit, age, cost, scheme, roster construction, long-term vision versus short-term potential gain. All of it.
Which leads us to a final thought to chew on.
Okay, let's hear it.
Given that the Chiefs, as Mincello reminds us, won it all recently with a very similar group of receivers,
Yeah.
is bringing in a vet like Lockett, who might be past his prime, really the best way to get better offensively?
Or is sticking with the plan, developing the young guys like Worthy, getting Rice back healthy, and maybe adding more youth through the draft? Is that the more sustainable path?
Right. What does this whole debate tell us about that constant push and pull in the NFL between trying to win right now and building something that can last?
Yeah, that short-term versus long-term thinking is always fascinating in team building. Definitely something worth pondering.